On May 6, 2011, James Hylton, at the age of 76, becomes the oldest driver to make a field at any level of NASCAR, qualifying for the nationwide event at Darlington Speedway, as he refused to give up what he loved and continued racing far beyond his contemporaries, showing true grit and determination, carving out a career that spanned over 5 decades, that's seen him go against the likes of today's racers and the greatest of all time. Join us today as we dive into the inspiring journey of James Hylton, a man that proved that there was no way you could stop him from getting in that car and going fast. Today on Daily Sports History. Welcome to Daily Sports History. I'm Ethan Reese, your guide as you daily learn more about sports history, increasing your sports knowledge. Now, like many NASCAR people, grew up in a small town in the South. In Virginia, he was born on a family farm in the heart of the Depression in 1934. That's how far we're going back for this driver that was still racing in the 2000s. He was one of 13 kids in a household that you had to work just to survive. Life was tough as him and his siblings worked from sunrise to sunset, tending crops and livestock, helping feed the family. He said, in his own words, he said he had an excellent childhood. At the time, he thought it was awful, but looking back now, he wouldn't trade that lifestyle for anything. And he did end up going to school, and it was an eye-opener for James, as he could recall seeing kids from the city bringing slices of bread for lunch, in a stark contrast to the giant biscuit that his family had packed for him. These experiences gave him humility that he used throughout his career while racing. And he was introduced to driving at an early age, as his older brother had taught him to drive the father's Model T, using 3 pedals on the floor instead of a gear shift. And that's what really got him into racing. As this happens at a young age on farms, you have to learn to drive different kind of mechanics. The tractor, the truck, or whatever it is, they have to learn at an early age, earlier than you would traditionally. And it keeps you a step above all the rest. And his first race car was a 1934 Ford Coupe, but he couldn't keep because he had to step back and become a mechanic to help make ends meet for his family. But becoming mechanical also helped him in NASCAR when he first started. In the 1950s, he would go on to work as a mechanic for Rex White in the NASCAR and quickly proved his worth, helping White win the 1960 NASCAR Grand National Championship. And his reputation grew, and by 1964, he was hired as a crew chief for Jed Jarrett. And under his guidance, Jarrett won 14 of 55 races in 1964 and finished second in points, and would dominate even the next year, winning 15 of 52 races, capturing the Grand National Championship. And by the age of 33, Hylton had contributed to 2 NASCAR championships as a mechanic and crew chief before even taking the wheel for himself. In 1966, he made a bold decision to return to the driver's seat. He bought a 1965 Dodge Corvette for $5,500, and with crew chief Bud Hartshey, ran a single-car team on the strictest of budgets. And that year, Hylton stunned the racing world, winning Rookie of the Year and finished second in the Grand National Championship points, which is a record for a rookie. And he would continue his success into the next year, finishing in second again in the points. And for that first decade of his career, he would finish top 10 in points, showing how consistent he was from the start. He would finish second in points in 1966, 67, and 71, and finish third in 70 and 75. And would get his first win in 1970 at the Richmond 500, driving his newly purchased 1969 Ford Torino. He dominated the race, finishing 15 seconds ahead of NASCAR legend Richard Petty. And his success showed even more remarkable, as he wasn't just a driver. He was one of the few drivers that was also an owner. He owned his team, and he was consistent because he got lucky as well. When you own your car and your team, if you wreck, that's on you. You have to pay for those repairs. You have to pay for a new car if needed. You have to go through all of that. And that can stick in your mind. But perhaps his most iconic moment came in August of 1972 when he won the Talladega 500, where he led over 106 laps, edging out Ramon Stato by just a car length, securing his second and final Cup Series win in true underdog fashion. And yes, you did hear that right. That was his final win in the 1970s. But he wasn't done racing. Throughout the 1970s, he actually was advocating for other drivers to become independent. This was something you could do, but it was getting increasingly harder as the money for the cars kept going up every single year. And NASCAR actually created a winner's circle program. The program provided financial incentives for short tracks, giving them $250, and longer tracks, giving them $500 to drivers in the top 25 in points, helping smaller teams have the chance to compete against these bigger teams that were showing up. But he was still an outlier in this aspect. Now, Hylton's determination actually started to fade with his age. He started to get older, but he wanted to still compete, and he started competing in the lower division, the ARCA Racing Series, in the late 70s, and continued that throughout his career. And in 2011, at the age of 76, he set a record, becoming the oldest driver to start a NASCAR Top 3 division at the Royal Purple 200 in Darlington. Just to give you an idea of who he was racing against, Kyle Busch had won the pole and would end up leading 41 of the 147 laps, winning the race. That means he had raced against Richard Petty and Kyle Busch, putting him in two completely different eras of racing. And it's amazing to see that. There were other great racers in this race. Denny Hamlin finished second in this race. And other great racers such as Clint Bauer would finish 6th, Casey Kane finished 7th, Carl Edwards finished 20th, Brad Keselowski finished 27th. There's some big names that had raced in this race. But unfortunately, James did not get to finish this race. He started, was in 2 laps, and had a rear end issue that took him out of the race in his number 0 car, not able to finish this race. But that didn't mean it was his last race. His final race came on October 2013. He was born in the Great Depression in the 1930s, and he was still racing in 2013. And he finished 18th at the Kansas Speedway at the age of 79, finishing his career with 5 decades of races, more than 800 starts at all levels of NASCAR, showing that NASCAR wasn't just for young guys. Now, a lot of people do argue, is racing actually a sport? It is a sport. You have to be fit to do this. Even though he was 79 and still racing, it doesn't mean he wasn't fit. You can be fit and be old. That doesn't mean you can't do it. He doesn't have the lung capacity. He's got to have endurance. And endurance you can have at an old age. You know, the sport of NASCAR and racing in general is still like that. We've had a lot of older gentlemen like Mario Andretti race as an older man too. There's lots of people that have raced in all different kinds of sports at all different kinds of ages. It's one of those sports that it doesn't matter your age so much as your age. Now, he won't be remembered for winning a lot of races. He'll be remembered for racing for a long time because he had the passion for it. He enjoyed racing, and that's what really cemented his legacy overall. He would finish with 602 career Cup starts, 140 top 5 finishes, 301 top 10 finishes over a 27-year Cup career. And though he never won the Grand National Championship as a driver, he did as a crew chief and a mechanic. He's experienced that. He came in second, which is still admirable. But that's why you don't hear James Hylton's name very much, because he was not the all-star. He was that steady guy that was always around, always there. You know, he went from facing young guys that are still racing to this day and had also beaten Richard Petty. Not many people can say that. I want to thank you for listening to today's Daily Sports History. If you want more NASCAR history content, check out the Scene Vault podcast. They're the best NASCAR history podcast out there. They cover all of NASCAR history all the time with interviews and using their personal experiences through their NASCAR careers, giving you expert analysis and commentary every week so you can even learn more about NASCAR history. We'll put a link in the description below for you to check them out. And please make sure that you are subscribed wherever you are listening to this. That way you do not miss a single episode, because we're going to have another one tomorrow and the day after that, and you don't want to miss more sports history.